36 and I'm panicking, going, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock and I don't have anything yet.
Hi guys, I'm already live and I am just emailing Jody, who's on the phone with me right now. The link, that cell is where it goes to. Send. Okay, hopefully you have it now. Okay, I'm gonna hang up.
Okay, great, thanks.
Bye. Good morning, everyone. It is definitely Monday. We had a little technical difficulties. I think I sent 2 things out in my email this morning and they weren't in the sent folder. So I wonder if they were even there. I think I might have some issues this morning with my email. Maybe Jody will pop on here. But today we're talking about creative offers in this amazingly awesome seller's market where people are getting $20,000, $40,000 over asking price. You know, and typically we try to do the auction effect where we price it just right so that if we do get more than one offer, they kind of raise the price on their own. But this year it just feels like an auction, a Sotheby's auction. Okay. She should be on any minute. Maybe. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few things other than price that we can do in order to get your offer sold or your offer as a buyer. I'm sorry, I know there's 2 people watching, and here she is. We're both wearing red today.
Well, today it's Red Monday, I'm thinking. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I was just telling them that we were talking about things that we could do in lieu of just raising the price when it comes to putting an offer on the home, because there's other creative things that people are doing. Jody, what kind of things are you seeing? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
In regards to when offers are coming in, I think people are for sure writing letters to the seller. That's become a big concern. Just kind of stating how bad they want their house and what the attractive features are. When it comes to adding to the price, I think obviously the big concern coming in is making sure the house is going to value. That always becomes a big concern to a lender, is because anybody can bid any amount for a house, but if you don't have an appraisal to value that home at that high price, that's where you run into concerns and problems.
Right. And now, so one of the things that I have seen are appraisal guarantees.
Yep.
So
yeah.
talk to me about that.
Guarantees. Okay, so it's not necessarily an appraisal guarantee. Here's how it works. With your conventional investors, which is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they have become, in their underwriting system, become lenient in regards to requiring an appraisal. And what I mean by that is, in a perfect scenario, and I'll say a perfect scenario would be a single family home, someone who maybe has a high 700 credit score, and someone potentially who has at least 20% down. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if we put in let's say the sale price is 360, if Fannie and Freddie's underwriting engine agrees that there is a value in that range of 360, and because they've got a superior buyer, they would then waive an appraisal requirement, meaning they're accepting the value the lender has put in for the value. So to me, that would be what I would refer to as an appraisal guarantee, because there is no other guarantee, as you and I both know. An appraiser is an appraiser's opinion, going out to the property and doing their research.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
An appraiser is basically a licensed realtor who has an appraisal license, correct?
Correct. I don't know. I honestly don't know their background, like if they've been real estate agents in the past. I don't believe so. I know a lot of appraisers that have never been a realtor.
I know them that are they're still realtors that are appraisers all in one.
Okay.
I have seen it. I've taken a few classes about it, which makes me love to do CMAs because
Yeah.
I feel like I am really good at them now. So I could tell
Well,
you
there
what
you
your
go. You
house
can
is
put that
worth.
second profession on you, as you can now be an appraiser. Yeah.
That would be
So
fun.
I would say, I mean, and the hard part is you can be a realtor and an appraiser, but then as a lender, we all have our own like I don't even say we used to have what's called panel appraisals, but now we all go through management companies. So the appraisers are hired by these management companies, and that is who we all work through as lenders. Is it's kind of luck of the draw. There is no guarantee what appraiser you're going to get.
And that was changed after the big boom because there was some dirty dealings out
Yep.
there.
Yeah, where I think there was relationships in the past with real estate agents and or appraisers and or
And
lenders.
kickbacks.
Yep, and absolutely the appraisers were more or less paid to come up with a particular value, and that definitely hurt things.
Yeah.
So,
And so now it's run, like you said, through a third party. You
yep.
don't get any say in it. It's completely random.
Right, and because of those guidelines, lenders are not allowed to speak to the appraisers. It has to all go through the management companies.
Yeah.
So like never, I mean, I wouldn't use the word guarantee appraisal, but if that's what they want to refer to it as, that makes a little bit more sense that you'd be lucky. Now, mind you, I could have an 800 credit score and a buyer who qualifies so perfectly well, 20% down, but perhaps maybe they're buying out in the suburbs, like way out. Okay. There is no guarantee that an appraisal waiver would come back on that, because what ultimately Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are looking at is areas that they have dense population of loans in and that they have seen values. So
Do you hear that
ultimately, yeah.
sound? Sorry, my husband's I'm above our garage and he's opening the garage door. I should have warned him about that.
Should have warned. But yeah, so I mean, so an appraisal waiver is never a guarantee. It is a hope that we are within a price range that Fannie and Freddie are familiar with, and that we have done loans in that area before, and we have a strong buyer. And so that to me is the best part, is if you can get that waiver, one, it speeds up your process entirely. You can whip a approval through very fast because you're not waiting on an appraised value. So
Yeah, you can. And well, and I wonder if it's maybe more to do with like we'll back it. Like I know a lot of times we'll write in the purchase agreement a clause that if the home doesn't appraise, that we will come to the table with XYZ amount of money, or
yep.
we'll cover it no matter what. So maybe that's what they mean by appraisal guarantee. Maybe
Yep.
it's interesting to see how
It
it's
could.
done.
And I think that brings up kind of that other topic that we were discussing a little bit, is, appraisal guarantee, if that's the case that a clause gets written in that no matter what the value, the buyer has agreed to pay that price,
Yeah.
that can represent a little bit of a problem in the respect that, once again, if we get an appraisal, let's say the house sells for 360, but we get an appraisal back at 350, and there is no way that the appraiser is budging on that value, the buyer now, their down payment is an additional 10,000 to what they originally agreed upon, because now there's that gap of $10,000. And
Mhm.
so that's what we have to look at as a lender, is, were they putting a minimum down payment to begin with and now we're adding 10,000? Were they thinking of putting 20% down? Now it's 20% plus an extra 10,000. So
Mhm.
I think everyone thinks that, well, no, we'll just, do 10,000 and then we'll put our other 10 and there's our 20,000 or something. Well, it doesn't work like that. As a lender, we always look at the lower of the two numbers, the lower of the sale price or the appraised value. So
Yeah.
that can become an issue too, because that's a big difference for certain
It's
people.
a huge difference. It's a
Yeah.
lot of money.
So we need to make sure that if buyers do that, they're going in with that understanding that they very potentially could come up with an additional 10,000, 15,000 above and beyond what they originally anticipated.
Yeah. Is it possible though that, like, say they went from 20% down and they needed to cover the difference, that they could change their loan and come up with, 5% down and then use
Yep.
the extra cash to close. But that would
Absolutely,
make
we
their
can.
payment higher.
It would make payment higher, and now it puts them into a mortgage insurance bracket. So that's another reason why we say we have to be careful of what their anticipation was, because if they thought they were going to put 20% down to avoid the PMI, and now all of a sudden they don't have that extra 10,000, sure, I can increase their loan amount if they qualify, but now I'm
Mhm.
adding private mortgage insurance because according to my numbers, they're coming in with less than 20% down.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so to
yeah.
move on, let's talk about I'm sorry, I was trying to find the time. For some reason, the time went away. I'm like, I hope we're still live. No inspection
Yep.
is very common now. And we are a buyer beware state. Okay. So the sellers, they can disclose as much as they want to. I mean, they're supposed to disclose everything they know, but we all know that
Yep.
sometimes things don't always work out that way, or they consider something insignificant, but to the buyer, it might be significant. And so we're seeing a lot of no inspections, which, if you want the house badly enough, and if
Yep.
you have a knowledgeable real estate agent that can kind of look and see some of the surface area things, if you have, maybe a contractor that wants to come with you and just look at some of the superficial stuff that we look at, type of siding, the exterior, the foundation, age of the windows. I mean, for the most part, you can kind of tell some of this
Yep.
stuff with your
Yep.
naked eye. If there's been any water damage, you can see it. Is there a sump pump? Is there not? Gutters. We can look at this stuff. And if you want it badly enough, you just know that. And you're going to be there long enough that you're going to fix it up anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, and I mean, no inspection's tough because yes, you're buying that house, more or less without any kind of further review. We do appraisals, and I'm not going to say they substitute because they don't. But ultimately, if there is something that's pretty blatant, the appraisers do have to check the water. They do have to check to make sure the furnace is working. They do have to check to make sure, appliances are in working order. It isn't a total inspection, but at least it makes you feel a little bit better that if you are going without an inspection, there's a little bit of a pre-check, I'll call it, that you could maybe rely on as an example.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah,
mm-hmm.
but no, there's a lot of, I think a lot of different ways to get in to make your offer look more attractive. Of course, the biggest one is not asking the seller to help pay any of your closing costs. That's another big one. So I personally make sure all my buyers know that closing costs are going to be their responsibility unless you're in a absolute fluke situation where it comes
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that we're seeing too is, and I like to do this, is like a 2-year home warranty with seller coverage. So what that'll do is it'll cover the 24 months of arbitration, which for those of you that don't know, arbitration is basically like I was discussing earlier about disclosing things that maybe the seller doesn't think is a big deal, but the buyer does. They could go to arbitration and get that settled outside of court. But the home warranty is really great because it'll cover those 24 months. But also, if you have no inspection and something were to break before close and you do the seller coverage, the seller can actually use that home warranty to make that repair.
Correct. That's another great idea. And home warranties are so affordable, so affordable. So once
Mhm.
again, if you end up purchasing the home without an inspection, a great way for backtracking would be that warranty.
Especially for first-time home buyers that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
tiptoeing around a home for the first time and home repairs. You're spending a lot of money getting things that you might not have as a renter, like a lawnmower and a ladder.
Yep. And a hose and
Toilet
yeah,
brushes.
all the extra things that you have to do as a homeowner, correct.
Yes. Okay. So now, seller cover closing costs. So now that's another thing is that the buyer is covering some of the seller's closing costs. That's another thing they're
Yeah,
doing.
I haven't seen it a lot, but I have heard of it. And once again, there's nothing saying that a buyer can't if that comes
Mhm.
up in a negotiation. The good news is the seller's closing costs usually are nowhere near the full amount that a buyer has to pay. So
Right.
that helps, if you end up having to go that route.
And
But
in
that is,
some states, so we're a state where, the closing costs are separate.
yep,
There are some states where they are like all in one and you pay 50-50. There are states that do it completely different. So in the state of
yep,
Minnesota, the buyer's closing costs and the seller's closing costs are separate, and you each take care of your side of the road.
yep,
Or sometimes, in past markets, we have asked for seller closing costs. Now, that's not
right.
uncommon now either, but it is essentially what it is you're paying your own you're financing your own closing
You're
costs.
financing. Yep, you're paying higher for the price for the seller to
Yeah,
pay.
you're paying higher for the price, and then the buyer or the seller takes that check and slides it back to you across the closing table, essentially.
Not really sliding a check across. They're just literally taking on your costs because you've agreed to pay them more.
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Okay. So
So yeah,
now,
so those are really good ways. Yeah, in
there is
negotiating in this world.
a couple more ways. There is offering the seller to leave behind anything that they want and that the buyer will take care of it for them. So, like, take what you want and leave the rest.
Okay. Never heard of
Like
that one, but yep.
furniture, laundry, appliances,
That could add up. If you don't want it though, that could be a very expensive bill on the buyer's behalf. You know what I'm saying? To get rid
well,
of
it could
stuff.
be, but also if you're a first time home buyer, you might not have much.
Well, I was going to say you may need it too. The key word.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Especially
that's
if you're
an
living in
interesting
someone
one.
else's
Okay.
house. Okay, and then possession date for predetermined amount of time after closing. So, for example, to give the seller more freedom of being able to buy non-condition or non-contingent,
Non-contingent. Okay.
they could essentially live in the house for a predetermined amount of time after closing until they find their own house. So, a possession date for a predetermined amount of time after closing.
Yeah, not a bad idea either. And I believe all the guidelines for all the investors require occupancy within 45 to 60 days after closing. So it could never exceed 45 to 60 days of a rent back.
And more importantly,
Yeah.
your insurance. You need to talk to your insurance provider about that, because then it becomes a
Yeah.
liability issue if something were to go
Absolutely.
wrong.
Yeah. No, there's
And
a
your
lot of
home
really
warranty.
creative ideas. And I think, the good news is to work as a team between, your lender, your real estate agent, and yourself. Work as a team to come up and be as creative as possible. We've been in the business, so we've got ideas and we're here to help for
Yes.
sure.
So now I wanted to circle back around to talk about home letters, love letters. And I
Love
tell all of
letters.
my clients to keep it to the house because of fair housing. I actually, when I get a letter from, like, for my sellers, I redact any fair housing information. So I redact if they're, married, even their sex. Like, I should, their name is on the purchase agreement.
Yep.
So you can kind of determine that. Although there are some, we're millennials with some really lovely ambiguous names, which are great. Like Taylor and Morgan and all those other names. Okay. And then, okay. So, if they have children, if they're married, any orientation, things like that.
Hmm.
So if they celebrate Christmas, they're like, oh, I can see us celebrating Christmas in this room. I was like, yeah, that's religious. Strike that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, there are certain things
because
you're right. Keep it kind of simple, but yet you're right about the house.
focus on the house and these
Yeah.
love letters, you guys. Yeah. So anyway.
No,
All
I
right.
think that's a great idea.
Our time is up. I will see you next Monday. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. We'll talk.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, you guys, for listening. Have a great day today.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.